Hello and welcome to this little painting video. I just want to preface it by saying that I'm out of practice. This was a way of me getting back into my painting practice, and I haven't painted from life for a very long time, years. So this is a little way of me getting back in, so don't expect perfect results. There are some very wonky parts at the end, but it's still something I think is worth sharing because you can see the process and the practice and see how I get from A to B as I'm painting these daffodils. They were so beautiful, bought for me by my sister-in-law, so I had to put them on paper and keep the memory. So basically I'm starting in this sketchbook, which was from Jackson's. I think it's about 220 GSM. It's a lovely large A3 sketchbook, and because it was such good value, about £2.70 or something, it's just means you can make mistakes and really use it up and wear it out and not worry too much about it. I'm just laying out the basic shapes. I was quite glad that I managed to get the whole thing in some sort of perspective and that it all fit on the page. I wasn't too worried if it didn't. However, having said that, as I look back at it later on, I realise that one of the flowers hasn't even got a stem that goes all the way down. But generally it's all fine. So I've drawn it in just a regular HP pencil. Again, some of my perspective is wonky, etc. I'm using some watercolour paints. There are just a mix of different ones I've got. Some Winsor & Newton, De La Roni, probably some other little ones sprinkled in there. And just mixing some yellows to see, how the colours lay out when they're actually on the paper, and I'm putting swatches of that colour just on the bottom right hand corner there that you can see. So I'm starting off just blocking down the main colours. Now, I kind of forgot how watercolour works, so I didn't actually leave any white space. Such a rookie mistake, and it's fine. I mean, I don't think there was any real whites, but there probably were some lighter colours than this yellow that's laid down now, the flat colour. No problem. This was just playing. I was letting myself off that hook. I didn't want to give myself any pressures because it's really important when you're playing in a sketchbook that this is the space to make the mistakes. This is a space to try different things out. And kind of that's what I was doing. So I didn't worry too much. So I'm using a variety of paintbrushes. They're all fairly good quality, not very expensive, but nice quality ones, not your cheapies, because there's no point in trying to paint if you've got shoddy brushes. I keep the shoddy ones for if I'm doing scratching in work with acrylics or oils where I want that kind of raggedy look or some texture added to the piece. I'm trying out different things. Some of the areas I've laid wet in wet and it was too soon. You can see that the top left there, some of it was a bit blurred where it had just bled into the next piece before I was ready. Here's my little jug. It's cute there. I think I made it worse near the end, but see how very flat it looks. And I do try and give it a bit more form later on. Just adding a shadow at the bottom of the jug there. When you're painting something that has that is on a surface, it will always have, if you look closely, a very fine, very dark line where there's absolutely no light that can get into that object, and just popping that on your pieces gives the object some weight, and then therefore it gives it some form. I've actually recorded it over a couple of days. It was 2 different sessions I painted in, and then I've sped this up like 20 times. So sorry it's a little bit in places jiggly jaggedy. It's not very smooth painting, but I wanted to be able to give you a sense of the whole thing coming together. So then this is the next day when it's dried, and I didn't even think, I don't know why, but overnight, obviously the flowers moved. They're living things. They went towards different light. They soaked up some water, whatever. And they all were in different places. So the light was different. I couldn't always distinguish which flower was which flower. And so I didn't have that object in front of me to kind of give me a reference every time. So some of it I had to make up a little bit. And that's the way it goes. And I think next time, yes, of course, I would take some photographs so that the next day I could then just work from the photo. That would have been fine. I'm just starting to lay in some of the darker shades of yellow and add in some of the green, like from the stem. So at the top of the stem, the base of the flower petals, the yellow is quite greenish, so I wanted to add some of that green, you know, to make it more lifelike. Again, following by looking at the flower. You need to observe. I can't stress enough how important it is that even if it works out wonky and goes a bit tits up like some of this is, it doesn't matter. You need to draw and paint from real life. Doing it from photographs is never the same. For one, the image has already been made flat. It's already been made 2D. So your eye hasn't learned how to create something 2D, a flat shape, from something 3D. So you haven't seen nearly, your kind of eye sees around the corners, around the bends of things. Your eye hasn't translated that. And I think there's something lost in that translation, or the lack of translation. There's something that you miss about the object when you don't translate it yourself. I can't describe it any more than that, but it's really, you know, really important where you can to paint and draw from real life. And that's a note to myself, because I've been shoddy. Let me tell you, shoddy in doing that myself. So I really need to do it more. So you can see on the left there, that bottom left-hand flower, I've put that brownie colour line. I was going to try and add some details, and then I've taken it back off because I was like, nope, that does not work. That's not what I want to do. And at this point I didn't know if I was going to go in with some pen and ink, you know, just some like really fine line pen to kind of draw over the top of it. But I decided against it because as it dried, the pencil showed through the paint, and that was enough of definition for me. So we're at the end now. I'm going to let you have a little look at it in just a minute. If you'd like to see any more painting videos, if you want to ask me anything about what we've created here today, or about the materials or the process, or just some other chit chat, then feel free. I'd love to share. Take care everybody, and thank you so much for joining me on this painting video. Ciao!